Yeah, no, I'm going down the gym after, so I figured I might as well get into my goodies first. So that means I've had to take the hat off, which is a bit silly really, but never mind. So anyway, this time I've chosen violence. Um, so not for the first time, I had a conversation with a potential client recently, a couple of weeks ago. And there was a phrase that came up in our first chat that should have been the red flag. Growth hacking. And I thought, do you know what? Now's the time to address it. Okay, I decided to let it go. I put together a proposal. I talked about how I work, how everything I do is evidence-based. It's effective marketing that's been proven over years and years, rather than second guessing and hacking. But they didn't want that, and that's fine. Everyone's welcome to make that decision. You choose how you spend your money in the market, right? That's how a market works. But I think what I kind of really want to address is the idea that a growth hacker can replace a trained marketer, that they're the same thing or the outcomes are the same, because they're not. And I don't think there's not many other industries where people would willingly choose someone who just works off of vibes and throwing stuff in the air and seeing how it lands over someone that's actually been trained, someone that's had experience, someone that's learnt from an entire history of an industry. And so as a trained marketer, and a well-read trained marketer, I find a lot of the growth hacking grossly negligent, frankly. I think it's talking people into spending their money on the hope of outcomes rather than actual outcomes. So, there's a classic saying of, 50% of my advertising spend is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. Well, that's kind of, you can consign that to the bin really, because we know how adverts work now. We know how adverts work. We know what drives people. And we can measure spend. We can look at all of those things. You can do econometrics. There's all sorts of way of actually understanding the value, the input, the output of marketing that untrained people, growth hackers, just don't know. So for example, if you give me a budget and I'm able to work out your, let's say, your share of voice, your share of market, I can project what your turnover increase is going to be next year, your incremental budget increase. It's not hard science, it's not hard fact, but there are calculations, there are methods that are tried, tested and true that I would use putting together a budget in order to show what we get out of it. Growth hacker can't do that. A growth hacker is only able to work on what they've seen work in the past, all right? And part of the problem with that is if you're not trained, if you don't understand why people do the things they do when they see adverts, for example, or they go into a store, if all you understand is various outputs, you don't know what's causation, you don't know what's correlation, you don't know what is contextual. All you can do is say, okay, well, that one didn't work. Let's try something else and see if that works. And try it again. And iterate and reiterate and shift the copy around on an ad, shift the image around on an ad, without actually understanding the kind of copy, the kind of imagery, the kind of tone, the kind of output that makes ads work, that makes email work. It's all just engineering after engineering. So we've got growth hackers doing stuff with digital ads, pay-per-click ads, and all they're trying to do is game the system. So their understanding is about the system only, and how best to game it, and how to get tiny iterations of improvement. Whereas a trained marketer understands how people respond. At the end of the day, marketing, sales is about the people that buy. All right? The platforms change. There's been so many platforms, so many technologies. The job of the engineers in the industry has increased, no doubt, and that's not an issue. But it does seem that the influence of the engineers, without the background knowledge, without the understanding of the why and the how things work, has kind of thrown a lot of people who are looking for growth hacks, life hacks, everything's a hack now, everyone wants a shortcut. They're seen as a safer bet than someone that's actually been there and done it over years across brands, and it's crazy and it's maddening and it's poisoning our industry. So here's something that I want to say, right? Growth hacking is bullshit, okay? If you think you want to hire a growth hacker, please have a look first at what their outputs are, what their methodology is. If it's just hacking around engineering algorithms and you think that's how marketing works, then of course, make that investment. But think about it. Think about what marketing is. Marketing is of the market. The market are people that are going to buy from you. Who's going to have a better idea of how to get your brand in front of the right people to buy them? Someone that understands just the vehicle of the message, or someone who understands how messages are received and processed? Now, I'm not a behavioral scientist, but I read a lot of behavioral science because ultimately that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get into the hearts and minds of consumers, of customers. This is why the adverts that work best are the ones that actually drive people. They create a response, they create an emotional response. They don't just click, click, click. So we had it a couple of years ago on the Super Bowl where one of the, I think it was one of the kind of the currency companies, and they just had a QR code bouncing around on screen. And of course we all talked about it because it was completely different. I don't know how many people actually scanned it, and I don't know how many people actually followed through on it compared to some of the great story building narrative ads that just get in your mind and stick with you for life. So, you know, kind of, I've had a tune running through my head the last 2 days. Don't ask me why. It's not a brand that I like. It's not something that I buy. My kids like toasted waffles for breakfast as one of their options. I've had in my head the last few days, when they've been having it the last couple of days, bird's eye potato waffles, they're waffly versatile. Remember the ad? You might not. I do, because the ad worked. Did it work by giving me details? Did it work by trying to game the system? No, it worked by being memorable, by being playful, by understanding how word structures and memetics can get caught up in your mind. It understands heuristics, it understands human behavior. So, next time I hear someone say that they're considering growth hacking, my question will be, are you looking for a growth hacker or are you looking for a marketer? Because I'm not a growth hacker, I'm a marketer. And if you think that's what you need, then I'm not going to waste either of our time. Okay? But you can always come back to me when you've tried this and you've either got nowhere with it or you've reached a plateau. There are some people out there that do some good, that have fallen onto some good techniques. Maybe they've learnt things that work in a particular setting and can repeat that. But there will be a plateau. There will be a plateau. And once there is, come and have a chat. I'd love to have a chat with you. So, yeah, fuck you growth hackers. We don't have that in other industries. We don't have building hackers, we have trained architects. We don't have medical hackers. We have trained and qualified doctors. Yeah, we don't have mechanic hackers. We have people that know how to work a car. You know, you need to understand things in order to deliver them. We wouldn't accept it anywhere else. I mean, can you imagine turning up for a flight and the pilot kind of announces, "Hi, yeah, this is your pilot, John Lyons speaking. Thank you for joining us on Bin Juice today for our flight to Malaga. I'm not actually a trained pilot, but I have played with some toy aeroplanes in the past, and I made one of those little glider things, you know, out of the balsa wood. So I think we're going to be all right, okay? I'm going to go with vibes, and if it doesn't work out, we'll just try a different way." Okay. Now, when the lights go on, please make sure you've got your belts buckled. Honestly, what the fuck?